Sundays are going by fast, and I think that this is also just a good way for me to even just plug back on, even like what's happened throughout the week and how far we've been, since starting this journey.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it gives you a sense too about like the fact that there really are some weeks where it feels like everything is happening in the world, and some weeks where are a little bit quieter, But yeah, it's been interesting. The last week was definitely a blur for me. So trying to take a moment today to rest, take a breath, but it just feels like the to-do list is never ending at times,
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's mostly a good thing. I mean, it depends how many things on the to-do list are things you want to do versus things you have to do to, make money or like whatever.
In order to do what you want to do, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, but I mean, it's a good balance. It's just like, and it's also like when some of the things are things you want to do, but then there's a lot of them and you feel like you should do them in a certain amount of time, then that, like, it has to be fun at the end of the day. I had a good conversation with the homie and Free Folk member, Austinson. Shouts out to Austinson. If y'all haven't heard the session with him, we had a great conversation with him back in season 2. But yeah, we just chopped it up and we ended up like freestyling over the phone and whatnot last night. And it was really dope because I think on both of our ends, we were feeling some creative energy, but the fact that we were able to connect and chop it up allowed us to really like enjoy it again as a process, as opposed to being concerned with like, what's the outcome? Am I gonna write a song and release it? Should I work on an album? Should I do this? Should I do? It's like, nah, like let's just start with like, let's play a beat, let's play freestyle and like just have some fun with it. So I think that's important when it comes to some of the to-dos, just make sure that they're fun for you if that's what they're meant to be.
Nah, that's love. Do you have any memorable bars?
Yo, I'm mad because I screen recorded the whole thing, but then you can't screen record FaceTime audio.
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah, and I'm actually happy that they do that though too.
I know, right?
Low key.
There was something, I don't know, victorious and glorious got rhymed at some point. I think it was something about Cypher, more bars than 25 to lifer.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, it's a good bar, but abolish prisons, defund the police. Let's go.
I feel that. I went to go visit a friend out in Jersey yesterday. Small gathering. So guys, COVID. Don't crucify me. I see what you guys been doing. But yeah, no. On the ride back with my friends, and we were just like reflecting on life. We were just discussing that he feels like COVID really gave him the opportunity to really slow down. I guess he felt like he was just going through the motion before in life. And there was a point in which he felt like he hit rock bottom. So we were just going back and forth, just discussing just what it means to just have free time going through that to-do list, right? And the conclusion that we came down to is sometimes going through the motions and leave you motionless.
That's a bar. Damn, y'all should have freestyled too, man. It wasn't
that kind of car ride for the freestyle, but I wish we would have called you guys if we knew that. Yeah, we're giving them book. So just wanted to just drop that in there. But yeah, no, I'm down to get started.
For sure.
It's been an interesting one.
Yeah. Just real quick, the quality seems good, but it's chopped a little bit in and out. So just for the folks in the audience, just let us know if you're seeing any issues on our end, and we can switch it up. But hopefully it's good to go. But yeah, let's dive right in.
Yeah. So something I saw earlier this week was the fact that Warner Brothers they made a decision to put all of their 2021 movies on HBO Max. And when I heard that, that's really, I don't think that's a nail in the coffin to completely just shut down or get rid of movie theaters, but that's definitely a catalyst. And it's just interesting to then reflect back on when Netflix first released that movie Bright. And there was just a lot of critiques on it, whether it's just about the storyline and the actual quality of the movie, but the fact that Netflix really took the opportunity to not take a movie with Will Smith and put it in the theaters like it was just on these streaming sites. So it just goes to show that sometimes people are just ahead of the curve, even before the rest of the world has the ability to catch up. I am a little bit nervous for that because that movie theater experience, there's a lot that goes with that. You feel me?
Yeah, I like the movie theater experience. I do feel like there is sort of a feeling, at least with me and some of the other people I spoke to who also are movie going fans. There's kind of a collective feeling of like, I don't know when I would go back to a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what exactly that moment comes where it's like that really pushes to go there. I mean, well, one thing that's interesting too, real quick, about the Warner Bros. HBO Max announcement. So the way that it's set up is that the movie will hit theaters and then it will also hit HBO Max at the same day, like you said. But it's only going to be on HBO Max for a month, and then it's going to get taken off. So it's like a month exclusive access on the streaming platform. It's not like it's going up there full time in the case of something like Netflix, for instance. Once it's up there, you know, forever. HBO Max is doing a 1 month exclusive thing, um, and then you know for the you know, after that 1 month period, if you want to see the movie, you have to go up, which I think is really smart for a few reasons. I mean, the main one for me is like, I know personally I'm going to be more likely to watch the Warner Brothers movies knowing that I can only do so in that month period
Entirely.
as opposed to like, oh, that movie's up, that looks dope, I'll see it eventually, and then not actually
Yep.
getting around to seeing it. So I thought that was a smart addition to the plan.
Because there's times in which also too, even if a movie just like popular movies that come out, sometimes it's impossible to get these tickets, you know, for a month or even 3 weeks after that initial release date, and then the hype always just goes down after that first 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what movie it is. So I think that having that month time limit or time frame that releases, I think that's perfect.
And it's interesting too, because then you have like Disney, for instance, has their own streaming platform anyway, so they're also like, but they have, but they haven't necessarily. There's certain flagship movies that were supposed to have been out mad long ago
Yep.
that they still have not put on the platform. You know, what Marvel, for instance, the Black Widow movie has been like just sitting there ready to go for mad long, and they're like, no, that's still going straight to theaters. So it does seem like there's that push and pull between, you know, understanding like the monetary side of things from the movie theaters, but then also like the fact that long term, collectively, movie theaters, I don't think we can safely say are ever going to fade away and not exist. It's more so just going to change. It's kind of like remote working, right? Where it's like more companies are now open to remote work, and like, you know, maybe you have a choice of going in. I think that sort of shift is happening more, where it is sort of like you can do this or that, as opposed to you have to do this, or if you want to watch it at home, you have to now wait. Like, it's kind of more an evening out, in my opinion, as opposed to like a full pendulum swing into the watching at home, you know.
And the beautiful thing about it too, I know that there was also the ability to sort of rent out a movie theater for when like up to 30 people or so, you know. I'm not sure what the exact number was, but I appreciate the fact that there's a little bit more creativity that's happening within this space. Because if I have an option to open a movie theater, watch the same movie at home, and save money on snacks like that, as a consumer, it allows me to just be able to be more intentional about what movies I want to see and how I want to sort of interact and keep that general moviegoer community intact. You feel me?
Yeah, and I mean that's a big thing too. Like I think we're still figuring out what a pricing model will look like this. I mean, shouts out to Mo. Mo mentioned in the bottom how the sponsors are going to be hurting, you know, no more popcorn and candy and food sales. And like you said, like from a consumer perspective, that's part of the reason that you might want to watch it at home as opposed to going to the theater. Though, I mean, shouts out to all the real ones who just would, you know, throw that shit in their pocket.
or eat the meal and the wings before you get to the theater.
Straight up, yeah. My New York movie going experience was always like hit the spot right outside that's selling the candy. Just stuff my pockets and walk in.
Don't tell on yourself, man. Don't tell on yourself.
Yeah, statute of limitations. Not really. No, I definitely did that. I haven't seen a movie in that long, so it's probably been a while, you know. But yeah, no, like I think that's the interesting part of it too, is like what the pricing model is actually going to look like, because, for instance, like even with Disney, I think they priced the movie at like, I think it was like 30 or something, right? And then people were like, well, for a family of 4, like it makes sense to still do that, and you're saving money here and there. But then now for this HBO one, it's like if you have an HBO Max account, then you already have access to this stuff, right? Like you're not paying extra on top of it. So I think that pricing model is still up in the air, and at the moment consumers are getting a lot out of it. And it also reminds me of MoviePass, which was a thing for like a year, and like
Exactly.
which I mean, shouts out to everyone who experienced Movie Pass, because it was like it always felt like this is too good to be true, or like how long it's gonna last for. For those who don't know, Movie Pass was essentially a subscription service. Essentially, like AMC now has it now with AMC A-List, their own version, but essentially it was a subscription service where you could pretty much just see any movie that was in theaters, as many like movies as up to one a day. So that was the only caveat, but like you basically paid a subscription fee to be able to just go into movie theaters and see movies. And that was like, when I had that, I was seeing the most movies in theaters.
Yeah,
in my
you love.
life.
I remember. Yeah, you love that.
I
That
did.
was a good.
I was seeing movies that I definitely would not have even thought about, or like, whatever, just because of the fact that I had Movie Pass, right? But again, it was just too good to be true, right? Like, not enough people were seeing monies, and the movie industry is such a big successful. Well, I don't know about successful all the time, but it's such a big industry as far as like the money being generated and the amount of people who are affected by that. And so, Movie Pass couldn't last, but I think that's going to continue to evolve moving forward. Is like, how do they reach that balance of like the people who are financially invested in the movie industry are seeing their return, but at the same time, the consumers care, because if not, if the consumers don't care, then you're not seeing any return on it,
Entirely. And I'm also, I don't know exactly why Movie Pass did shut down, but the theater, I would assume, is still making money if people are still buying things from the concession stand, That's how I heard that they get a lot of their funds even to begin with.
That's real. I mean, yeah, I don't remember the specifics. I know Movie Pass was like pretty much in the red from the jump, so like they just weren't able to like Netflix was in the red from the jump, but ultimately they made that flip. Movie Pass just was unable to. I mean, again, AMC made their own subscription service afterwards, so I think part of it was like,
of course.
Yeah. So they were like, nice idea. Now we're gonna do that for ourselves. Why should you get anything out of this? So.
Something that just clicked to us now, what HBO stands for. Home box office.
Home box office, that's real.
That's wow. So it's like, this is like extremely on brand for them.
That should have been the topic name for today, is just home box office.
Home box office.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's real. And I mean, like, to me, once we expand it out beyond the movie theater industry or the movie industry in general, it really just shows like, this year COVID hit and we had to all adapt to it. And it was just like, what do we do? How do we survive? How do we move? And now, it's December. We're about to be at the end of 2020. And like, certainly I'm sure there's plenty more unpredictable things on the way that
more new innovation. Yep.
But as far as something which across the board affects everything like COVID, this is like the first real shift that we've seen like that. And the fact is, and we knew when it was happening, we knew, like, at least some of us knew, like, okay, the repercussions of this are going to be big and they're going to be long lasting. And I think now we're starting to see the long lasting part, where it is like industries are going to change because of this. And I think that's where I talk a lot about like the idea of normalcy. It's important as consumers and like understanding our own power in the relationship that we have with these different industries or different aspects of life, to push for this is permanent, as opposed to this is a temporary fix and we're going to go back to that, right? So another example is like education. Like, hopefully we don't go all the way into online learning, and then as soon as we don't have to, it's like, okay, that was fun, like as a fix, and now we're never going to do that again. Like, I think now that's where the opportunity lies, is in being like, hey, this thing, I know we only did this because we had to, but maybe we should do it because like it's a good idea, moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's just all about options and things. I think that with options, you can figure out which choice is better for the current, having, like you said, be one or the other. Someone else commented, how is it going to work for 3D/Max? I mean, I guess you got to go to Best Buy, get a bigger TV, maybe. That's also going to be interesting, too. And I'm curious to see what these streaming services are doing with companies that are selling hardware equipment like televisions, entertainment systems, even couches, to be able to curate that experience too for the people who could actually afford it. Because this is also, I'm speaking from a privileged place, I think, whenever we are discussing the ability to watch this at home, there's people who have internet, even access to these streaming services.
I mean, yeah, that's the, like, speaking from the same privileged position on my end, I have mean, not currently with me, but I own a projector. So I would have been like, if, if and when I'm back in the space where the projector is, I'm gonna be caking. Like I'm gonna be chilling. Like I'm gonna be able to see. I'm gonna have the best of both worlds of being able to see these movies, while also because that is the other thing about it, right? Is like some movies are optimized for a big screen, and watching them, on a smaller screen, whether that is a TV, which is still pretty big but smaller than a movie theater, or whether in some cases people end up just like watching these flicks on a laptop or something like that, does also change the experience. Just from like a storytelling perspective and how you're engaging with the actual content too. Like there's certain, I mean, a good example is like this Christopher Nolan movie that dropped this year, Tenet. That was really high on my list before everything went down. Once everything went down, I was like, I'm not going to the theater.
Did you get a chance to watch it?
No, I haven't seen it. I think it's. I mean, I'm sure it's available online now. I think it's available online legally soon. But that's another one where it's like, on one end, I really do want to watch it. On the other end, like at the moment, if I were to watch it, probably be on my laptop. And like, I know that's not a movie you want to watch on your laptop, right? So that's the other kind of piece of it, just from, again, like putting the industry side of it away for a bit. Movies are a form of storytelling and are a medium for, a medium of entertainment and of, telling stories. And so with that in mind, there's also implications on how that changes things, right? And then how,
what is scary movies and everyone's jumping or gasping at the same time. Yeah, there's definitely those elements in it.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know about you, what's interesting is I feel like on my end, my TV consumption patterns are actually down this year, and that seems like I seem to be an outlier in that. Because obviously, people are home all day, they got to kill more time all day.
Of course.
Whatever. On my end, it was just like, because of that fact that I was left, I was just like, man, like, I've seen too much TV. I can't watch another show right now. That's how I feel sometimes, So I've been trying to use the time to engage in different forms of content that I wouldn't normally, or to, focus on creating or building things out that I'm passionate about, as opposed to watching these TV shows and movies. But it is interesting, as movies make the transition into TV, into the TV space, as in like into like small screens, like it is all kind of getting blurred together. It's just different forms of storytelling. And even like, HBO is taking this Justice League movie, which I never ended up seeing, but it got pretty bad reviews, to doing a director's cut version, but then they're also splitting it up into 4 parts and making it like 4 episodes. So it's interesting, like seeing those lines get blurred between what is a movie and what is television. It's interesting.
And there's also a lot of creators who just end up creating their own short films on YouTube. And of course, you're watching YouTube videos on the screen, whether it's on TV or computer screen. So that may even make it not level the playing field, because these production companies just have billions of dollars to spend for all their special effects, so on and so forth. But I think that if people are able to see these releases, or these movie theater releases, in the same form that they can see like the independent creator, director, production, I think that can help with just what's it called? Not even playing field, but just make it so that it's accessible to have your content out there and being watched, because the market could just be a little bit similar too in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And YouTube is free.
That too. It's good. It's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be really fun to watch. Do you have HBO Max already?
I do, or it's part of the cable subscription. I think HBO is just one of those things that
keep in mind now though that there's HBO Now, and there's HBO Max.
If I check my TV, I hope that someone has logged in at a certain point in life. So that's not confirmed yet. But.
Well, I mean, the other thing about it too, though, is like, and again, I mean, I made a reference to it in Tenet, and I'm not advocating anybody to consume media in ways that legally you should not be consuming media. But at the same time, it is like, even with this 1 month exclusivity period that I talked about, right? You could you could push the movie up there and give it a 4-hour, exclusivity thing, and it's on the internet forever. Like entirely. That's the other side of things, right?
I mean, even if it's in the theater and it's not online, it's still going to be
right. But it's a difference though, because in that case, you have people going to the theater and recording it, and it's like, do you really care that much to watch? Like, okay, I know some people who Shouts out to a you free fan member who I won't mention, but I know someone who watched Captain Marvel's the Captain Marvel camera version the night before they went to see the Avengers because it was like I've never seen it. But for the most part, you're not going out watching people's camera recorded versions from inside the theaters. Whereas
that's true.
High quality, like they posted on a streaming service, and you can get a web rip, which is essentially like 1080p, like or at least 720p, like high quality, like you're actually watching it. So that is going to be a big difference. Is like pretty much all of Warner Brothers movies. Essentially, yes, it's a 1 month exclusivity thing with HBO, but at the same time, it's a like 1 second exclusivity agreement because once it's up there, it's everywhere.
No, entirely.
For the people who look for it like that. So
yeah, and for the people in here right now, definitely comment. Are you guys excited for this possible shift in the movie theater industry, where big premieres are now going to be able to be streamed online, or are you still just a moviegoer? Love going to the theater and loving that popcorn experience. No, very curious what these guys have to say.
Give them a second.
Mm-hmm.
Set my mind too.
Okay, you like that it'll be streamed. That's nice. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. All right. So I guess it does fit with the lifestyle. Yeah, no, we've just seen some comments that says that they like that it'll be streamed, and I've never been a moviegoer, so totally fine with this. Yeah, and I think that what it's also going to do is it's going to just be able to just add additional elements of things to do on a weekend or a weekday with friends or family too. Like movie night can really be a movie night. Exactly. Yep. I love it. You can invite your family, friends, and whatnot. Maybe even charge your own fee. Hey, that's
what I got to do.
Go out there and get it. I like the entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. If you do have that entertainment system already set up, why not have anybody just send you $2 to $5 on Cash App? If you're
I also think from an audience perspective, it'll lead to more conversations around, like for instance, one of the movies which is dropping next year is the one about the assassination of Fred Hampton. And so it's like something like that. It'll like hopefully it also leads to a wider audience being able to consume the movie and thus discuss the movie and like that aspect of things too. So Warner Brothers is definitely thinking ahead, thinking futuristically with a move like this.
1000%. Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't know that movie was out. Also, too. Rest in peace to Fred Hampton. His assassination anniversary was on December 4th. I don't want to get too, but yeah, sleep easy, King. Sleep easy. All right. Yeah. So what else? I mean, that's kind of it. What I have for this movie thing. I'm excited. I'm excited for the change. I'm always excited for new ways that individuals are innovating, because what this also makes me think too is now what Facebook is going to be doing with their Oculus. So now we can all be sitting next to each other and still having that experience, or that visual experience at least, and just seeing where that can take that movie experience.
It's funny too that I feel like there's the other piece of it is, I don't know, you look back, like just from a health perspective, like you do look back at some of these things and you're like, we were really sitting in the theater with 100 other people, everyone coughing and laughing and like all, I don't know.
That's kind of nasty.
Yeah, the health consciousness piece, the public health awareness, I think is just, at least amongst the certain people who are taking what's going on seriously, right? It's just going to be higher. And that's what I was saying earlier is like, I actually do like the movie going experience, like watching it on the crowd, like for instance, I'm not, some of the Marvel movies that I tapped into, right? Like are a good example of movies that are fun to watch in a movie going experience, as opposed to maybe not the like most critically acclaimed movies or the most, like films, but at the same time, like a fun experience to watch other people in a movie. But I just don't know when. I just don't know mentally what the shift would be where I'm like, oh, I would want to do that again. It's also funny too because out here there's drive-in theaters. So I haven't seen one yet, but like that's also another option. And then in drive-in theaters, it's like you're still getting the big screen, and there's other people.
Entirely.
Yeah, there's just a lot of different ways that we can move forward with the consumption. And like you said, I think it comes down to options. Like if you want to watch it with other people, perfect. If you want to do it like a drive-in thing, all right, have that option. If you want to just watch it at home with the fam, do that.
Yeah, because once you have the options, then yeah, really just getting the ability to choose, or even like the dine-in theaters too. That's also that was also the way that I started experiencing actually seeing a movie. I stopped if I didn't have the cozy big chairs, it was already a no for me. But then in addition to that, if I also had to get some food while I'm watching the theater, watching the movie, that was definitely a green light.
You know, cozy chairs changed the game, man.
Oh no, that changed everything. And there's times in which like I fell asleep halfway in the movie theater because the chair was a little bit too cozy, and I probably had a long day at work. And they got my money again because I went back to go see it, to go see what I missed.
Oh, where have you ever gone to the movie theater by yourself?
Solos, I have, but this was what movie was this? This was a while ago. Damn, what movie was this? Because I know it was. No, I saw Dragon Ball with other people. I don't remember what movie it was, but there was a movie in which I kind of just sat in the back, enjoyed it, and it was just like it felt like an experience of like a restaurant by myself. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm here, and this is just something that's for me. It felt a little bit weird not looking at my left or right, being able to comment on it or sort of engage in that conversation. Yeah, I have. Have you? Oh, I know you have before.
What's that supposed to be? No, I'm just fucking.
We talk. I know that.
It's like, yeah, I know people ain't going to movies with you.
Yeah. No, you're a movie. You also like you're a moviegoer. You know what I mean? I mean, you have movie pass.
Yeah, for me, I had it until I got movie pass, and then once it was like, it felt I wasn't necessarily enough of a moviegoer to want to pay to see a movie without the experience of other people. But once I had I was like. I'm just pressing this button to see this movie. All right, yeah, like that definitely would. And I lived in New York. I lived near two theaters were within like a 6-block radius.
Your theater was wavy too. The theater that you had right there, yeah. If I had movie pass and I had a theater like that, walking distance, oh, easily.
Yeah, because at that point it essentially became like the same thing as just logging on to an HBO or logging on to a Netflix, or I can just go, bust a quick 5-minute walk and like hop in and see the new stuff that's out. So good old days of movie pass, man.
Nah. they're gonna come back and just remake. That's all. They just ahead of the time. That's all it comes down to.
This is also all reminding me. I'm pretty sure I'm still subscribed to AMC A-List because they like paused it when the pandemic hit, and I gotta cancel that because I'm not gonna be seeing 3 movies a month. I'm not gonna be seeing 3 movies the whole year potentially.
Oh, you know they're still gonna charge you a copy.
So I gotta cancel that ASAP.
You gotta go check in on that. Now, but I'm looking forward to the change. Innovation is always good.
For sure.
So I know another topic that we had was Chance getting sued. Tell me some more about that.
Yeah. So all right. First off, full disclaimer: this is a topic that this is the kind of topic I normally wouldn't want to talk about on You Think, in the sense that like I'm not into the whole celebrities
gossip
shit. And so, yeah, like that's not really fun to talk about or like interesting to talk about a lot of the time. This one is a little bit more interesting to talk about, partially because so basically the background is this week, a few days ago, Chance the Rapper was sued by his former manager. So there's Chance the Rapper. He was Pat the Manager. Like that's how he was known, Pat the Manager. So Pat the Manager sued Chance the Rapper for $3 million. Essentially, the lawsuit claims that, for those who don't know, Chance's last album, The Big Day, was critically panned after 2 extremely successful projects previously. Technically, The Big Day 2 was his first studio album, like the first that he charged for, because his previous ones he was pushing the independent all the way.
Mixtapes, yeah.
Yeah, so Acid Rap, or 10 Day before that was critically acclaimed. Acid Rap, blew through the roof. Coloring Book was also really popular, and then Big Day came, got universally panned. He had to cancel the tour. There was all this stuff going on. So Pat sued Chance and essentially is saying that he's owed $3 million, and also says that Pat gave advice before the album. Apparently Chance went on and announced the album that was coming out in July before he'd even started it. Pat was like, "This is a terrible idea. Don't do that." Like,
But as an artist, we feel that excitement sometimes. You know what I mean? Just to
mm-hmm.
just to get it off.
Yeah, and then but yeah, so the album wasn't super successful. Pat goes into details in the lawsuit about why he feels that was, it being more freestyle driven as opposed to written. He accuses people in the studio, like hangers on, of like kind of pushing this lazy approach to the music. A lot of it comes down to, so Chance is now managed by his dad and his brother, so he's keeping it in house and in the family. And Pat essentially is like, they're not versed in this stuff. They're not giving him good advice. And apparently, Pat's advice was ignored. The album came out, didn't do well. He had this whole tour plan that he had to cancel because they just didn't get ticket sales, which, like, again, considering how successful Chance was at his peak, it was a bad look for them to have to cancel that tour. And there was a lot of like things like that. And apparently Chance then flipped it around and basically was like, "Oh, it's your fault." Like, I don't know if it was more of like you didn't steer me in the right direction, or like you didn't stop me, like you didn't push back hard enough or whatever, but essentially being like blaming it on Pat. So now Pat's suing Chance. Again, like there's a he say aspect of this, right? That I don't want to touch on because I don't know. They've had like, well, okay. So back up too. I actually before Acid Rap dropped, I had seen a concert at BU. Shouts out to Justin, former, another Free Folk member. We had gone up to Boston at Boston University, had seen Chance perform, had met Pat, the manager, at that point. So like, I've seen firsthand, and even just like from what I've heard, not being super tapped into the industry, but just being like understanding Chance's rise to success. They had a very old and like, personal relationship that started way back when Chance, first started making music, all the way up until this messy end, right? So all of that being said, I don't want to get into the he say of it. I don't know who, what was going on behind closed doors, but I will say that there's a few things like that sort of come to mind for me. One is definitely the importance of having shit on paper, right? Like it sounds like part of the reason that there's $3 million up in the air is because Pat feels like he's owed something, and Chance is like, show me where I owe you that, right? And like, if you don't have that proof, that makes it messy. We'll see how the lawsuit plays out, but that's one piece. But I think the other piece is exactly like you said, right? Like sometimes as an artist, you do feel that feeling of like, I'm going to do this, right? And then the manager, the person who's in charge of building your career successfully might be like, that's not the best advice. You should do this instead. And I think that speaks to the push and pull between being a creative for yourself and like the act of creating versus like understanding your position as an artist and what your audience wants and feeding your audience. And that is a tough push and pull a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, just in general, it was sad to see that, honestly, because like I said, like I know that they had a personal relationship, so it's always sad to see things end in that way. And I think that often is the price of success, which is unfortunate that people grow big, get famous, and then like those day one connections end up not lasting. So that was a sad thing to see, but it just gave me a lot to think about in terms of the relationship that creativity can have with that, like with business, I guess, or like with that side of things,
Yeah, no, entirely. And that's when this is the topic. I just finished rewatching Atlanta, and there was a little bit of head bumping between Earn and Paper, just like the manager relationship. But going back to the chancing with him announcing the album and still releasing it on that day, there was also this general trend. My phone just all of a sudden just got live. That was weird. That's why I keep clicking the screen to keep it fresh. This is the first time that this is happening. But like I was mentioning before, there was also a wave of artists who would just release music or just have these like surprise albums where they're not releasing a date. And I think that you and I also discuss that as creatives. If we do set a date and something doesn't feel right, we also realize the flexibility that we have in order to adjust or pivot and go more so with the of what actually feels right at that time, instead of having to stick to a deadline as if it's like a school project, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's important to maintain that flexibility. Where it sounded like, and it does sound like, for at least from Pat's side of the story, Chance was refusing to do that. It also sounds like he literally announced that the album was coming out before he had started working on
That's,
it.
that's a different kind of pressure you're working under too.
And with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about, again, like, not trying to get into gossip shit, but just my interpretation of the situation. I really feel like some of it speaks to Kanye's influence, because that's something that, I remember back in the day. Well, first off, Kanye has a very long history of announcing things that don't come out. Just extremely long, all the way back to like after a Good Ass Job, right? Like that was supposed to be an album. Cruel Winter, like movies, the Cruel Summer movie. Still want to see that. There's a lot of things. So he's definitely seems like someone who kind of pursues that. And I remember reading. He had like a book back in the day, Kanye, called "Thank You and You're Welcome," which is just sort of like various mantras that he was living by back around like the 2007 like graduation era. So it's been a while since then. But he talked a little bit about, or one of the things which I remember he said was like, I like to say things out loud because it holds me accountable to other people. If I just keep my dream hidden, then nobody is going to be like, well, are you doing that, right? And now you fast forward to now, and he just like announces an album is coming out on a particular date the next week, and then that date comes and goes, and he doesn't even say anything about it. Right?
Kind of just leaves us up in the air. Yeah, man, I feel you. Where is Watch the Throne 2? I feel you, man. We're all waiting for that.
So that's the thing, right? It's like maybe this started, and again, now I'm just like in speculation mode, but it's like I can understand being like, this is something I want to do, so I'm going to put it out into the universe and I'm going to do it, and that's going to hold me accountable to actually follow through on doing that. But in the case of Kanye, clearly he doesn't feel like he owes anybody else anything, so it's like that aspect of accountability is gone. And so all that to say that now I think about Chance and the fact that Chance, also like kind of fell under Kanye's wing for a little bit, and I met Kanye West, I'm never going to fail, all that stuff. And then this just strikes me as such a Kanye thing to do, to just be like, oh, I'm feeling it, I'm going to drop this album July. But the thing is, like you said, like in the case of someone like Kanye, the date will just come and go, and he'll just not say anything. But with Chance, he set the deadline up for himself, but then he also was like, we're hitting this deadline, and then it sounds like his writing process was very different than his previous projects, etc. That took away from the success that he had seen previously and set him up for failure in that sense.
And I think also too, now that I really reflect back on it, what it is this whole idea of, oh, this is my first album, because the mixtapes did sound like complete full projects, or what we would consider of album quality. So to still sort of push this narrative as, hey guys, this is like my first real project, I definitely do think that did something to the marketing in that way, because then it was like amped up as like, hey guys, like wait on this is really coming out, so on and so forth, and this is going to be bigger than what I previously released,
Well, the tough thing too, related to that, but also just in general, is that when you're an artist, because like, okay, a lot of people's criticisms with the big day come down to the content itself, and the fact that, which partially the fact that some of the bars, like again, like Pat says in his lawsuit, that he wasn't really writing, he was kind of more just freestyling and like vibing. So okay, I can understand if you're a fan of Chance, because of writing, that in general is going to rub you the wrong way. But I also think content wise, his first album, or I'm dismissing 10 Day because that was kind of like really early days. But if you look at acid rap, like that touched a ton on like drug use and just sort of like, it was the perfect album.
It was a great album to come out during college, to be honest.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah,
it was the perfect album for college. Then you had Coloring Book, right, which literally has like the
great
song.
Follow-up.
Has the song, but it literally has the song like, right, like same drugs. We don't do the same drugs no more, right? Like, so he evolved from that space. He moved to this space. Some people followed him. Some people were like, wow, this is not acid rap. But most of the people followed him because the music was really strong. Then you go to the big day, and a lot of what he's talking about is like, I'm getting married, and like this sort of, that was a really big component of it, right? And so I think sometimes in artistic growth, your priorities shift and your audience's priorities don't shift, and so that deepens the gap, right? So like I can understand that aspect of things, of people being like, he's talking about his wife too much, like I'm not married, like like if this I just don't relate to this content. But I think if that alone was it, he wouldn't be in the position he's in now. I feel like it was a combination of that aspect, as well as the fact that the music wasn't necessarily as strong as his previous projects to warrant people being like, okay, this is a little out there for me. Because, like, for instance, I'm not even Christian, right? But I would love Coloring Book. It didn't matter to me that it was a very heavily Christian influenced album, because A, like, I'm spiritual in general, but B, like, the music, it sounded really good.
Good music is good music.
Exactly. And The Big Day, like, to me, there was some songs on there that I really liked, but there were some songs on there that I honestly can't say there were songs that I really liked on that project personally. But there were some songs that I did enjoy listening to. But it was just like the majority of the project felt very stale. And I don't think that has to do with content at that point. I think it has to do with like the approach and the effort that was put into the music, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too, because whose last album was also about their relationship marriage, when we reflect and think about it.
I don't know what you're gonna say.
Oh, 444.
Oh, true.
And just thinking about just sort of his progression, or just seeing his evolution.
That's so funny. My bad, not to cut you off. That's so funny. I'm like, yeah, 444 was the name of the album, and that song was about Beyonce. I just don't think of that song about that album as a whole about relationships in the same way that I don't know. That's interesting.
No, exactly. And I feel what you mean, but it took some time and I think that's what it was. It was just like seeing that evolution over time, and I think that you broke it down pretty well. It was just like the way acid rap was about drugs, and kind of Coloring Book. Oh, I'm evolving. Like, we're not really still on the same type of time, and then boom, to Big Day, where it's just like, whoa, like, I'm not married, I have kids, so on and so forth. I think that sometimes from the audience perspective, if they feel like they can relate with you in that way, and then all of a sudden you just hit a different life milestone, and then are rapping about that in that way, where you're also trying to bring us to this world, the progression may have felt too quick from the listener's point of view. You know what I mean? I mean, in addition to the other things that we mentioned, but I think that could also be an element too. Just like a lot of us at that time, I mean, even now, like, can't really relate to that, because this generation, like, we're all on just different paces.
But I think the difference too, though, is like in the case of Jay-Z, or like another example being like Kanye, with a lot of his albums, right, where he dropped like Yeezus, for instance. People were not expecting Yeezus, and a lot of people thought it was trash, still think it's trash, whatever.
That thing with Kendrick Lamar with To Pimp a Butterfly too.
Exactly, yeah. So I think a lot of times that happens, and people are ahead of the curve, but the difference is that you may not get it at that time, but then you'll go through other stuff and you will get it. Like Yeezus, to me, I liked it a lot when it came out, but it wasn't until I felt some of those feelings of frustration that I was really like, oh, okay, I get this aspect now. So yeah, very much not married yet. But that's the thing. It's like there's albums by artists who have made, like, I mean, shit. This is a lot
of rap albums I can't really relate to, because I'm not in that lifestyle, but like, it just makes you feel away. You know what I mean?
Here's a random one, right? Yeah. Usher Confessions was an amazing album. How many people have been through a situation like Usher? Hopefully not you, where you cheated on your girl and got her pregnant and all this. Like,
and how many people also, like, when that album came out, I think this was like what, 4th or 5th grade, 6th grade maybe. I definitely wasn't going through that at that time, but that was still like one of my favorite albums at the time. Now, that was a good example. Straight up.
But yeah, no, and I think the interesting thing is when your content does change and evolve in that manner, and then you lose support, right? It's then like mentally, and like, I know I started off saying I didn't want to get into this, and now I'm already into it in terms of like what's going on in Chase's head, and I don't want to get caught up in that. But I just think in general, taking this situation and adding some abstraction to it, right? In general, if you're in a position where you change as a person and you create something new and people don't respond to that, it's easy to be like, well, they just don't get it, as opposed to like looking and being like, what is it about how I presented it that didn't resonate with them, even if they didn't fully understand where I was coming from. And I think there is a distinction there where, like, we have seen people drop projects, not even just music, but just projects in general, creative works in general, where it's like, this isn't necessarily my same experience, but it taps into certain things that I now understand and resonate with. Even Good Kid, Mad City, bro, like, that's an environment I'm not from at all. But at the same time, I can deeply resonate with it by the way that it was crafted. And so those two things can be conflated at times, but I think they are two different pieces of the relationship from the audience to whatever the art is.
1000%. Yeah, I probably just think that it's more so the presentation. I think that we would have rather been lied to, even though if that was the album, if he would have just called it a mixtape, even if he was saying that he's independent, not getting paid off of it, still getting paid off it on the back end. You know, I think that was just a general relationship I think that he had with Chance. And I think that's probably where the consumer just wasn't able to add it both ways.
Yeah. You mentioned Atlanta.
Yep.
I wonder, man. I was listening to some channel and some Chance, and he had a line about how Donald Glover took him on tour, and I always wonder, like, all these, because back in the day, Chance and Childish said they were gonna drop a project together, and I'm just wondering, like, what's
and their songs are so good together.
But it's been so long.
I remember
like,
that.
I don't know. I think the last time they dropped a song together was probably 2013. I want to say.
A while ago.
So I'm just it's just interesting. Like, again, going back to this idea of like we don't know the conversations that are having behind closed doors. It's just interesting watching artists grow and like clearly relationships changing around them, but at the same time we just get bits and pieces that are revealed to us, and then we form narratives around those bits and pieces.
Yep. And to be honest, I think that being said, I really don't think Rihanna is going to drop her album. I really don't think she's going to drop her album anytime soon, because of the fact that people want it in this way, and she is just on a different type of time as a business, or from what it seems. You know what I mean? Because we really don't know what the hell is going on, but the way the perception is, I'm focused on just like other avenues of business. I don't think that album is coming anytime soon due to the fact that people may not be ready for the content or the growth, or if she may decide to take a shift in her music and try something different, because she is at a different place in life. We all are. I think that quarantine also changed a lot of us, or the way we just go about and just think about the day-to-day or human experience.
Yeah, and going back to the idea of deadlines, I think the best artists are the ones who, like, it's been 4 years since the Kendrick album, and it doesn't seem like, no one knows what he's
Wait, Dan came out 4 years ago?
3 years, my bad.
3? That's still a long time. Wow. It doesn't even seem like 3 years at this point.
I want to say it was 3 years.
No. You're right. It definitely wasn't 20.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been 3 years. Yeah. So like him, like there's artists who, shit, like D'Angelo went like 9 years between albums. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think if you're a certain kind of artist, you are true enough, like where you have a stature and an audience, but at the same time, you're like, I'm not ready to drop that. I'm not in the right space, as opposed to trying to fake the funk. I talked about this in the last session with Varo and Mari, and that was one thing we talked about. You can't fake the funk. You have to be ready to step back as a creative and just in general as a person, right, who does day-to-day things. Like, you need to realize when your heart isn't actually in it and you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, or like for the sake of maybe meeting a deadline. That's when you have to be like, let me chill on that.
Because sometimes go through the motions just to go through the motions, leave you motionless. You feel me?
Boom, there it is.
Oh, that's a full circle.
The circle's always full. The circle's always full.
That's a fact. Do you have any Sunday shout-outs this week? I have a few.
You go first.
All right. Shout-outs to Maurice Hurd, aka Mo Wellness.
Yes, sir. That was gonna be one of mine too.
Yeah, with Most Healthy Bronx. Definitely appreciate what you are doing. Everyone, please check that out at Most Healthy Bronx on Instagram. And then you'll see the content on there. So I don't want to spoil it all for you guys, but shout out to you. You're really on a great mission, on a great path, pushing forward health and wellness. So definitely appreciate that. Also, one other one. Shout outs to Glenn. He got 30 under 30, which is amazing for anyone.
That's the second one that I had on my list that you mentioned.
Also, I'm just taking all the Sunday shout outs.
It's all good.
But it's good. It's community. That means we're on the same page. Yeah. Both you free fam. So shout outs to you guys. Just keep doing what you got to do. Straight up.
Nice. Yeah. I had both of them on my list. So I also will before I get to in the U Free community, quick shout out outside of the U Free community to Elliot Page, formerly known as Ellen Page. For those who don't know, you know, actor from Juno, Umbrella Academy, things like that. Revealed that he was transgender and just sort of talked about his experience there. Yeah, just like live your truth. You know, it's gonna go a long way, I think, in terms of people who see that and feel comfortable living their truth. So big shout out to him for living his truth. I hope I'm not fucking up the pronouns there.
Not the
I'm pretty sure that's the right pronoun. But yeah, shouts out to him, and like that, it's gonna go far. Like and that's an area I don't want to go spend too much time because this could be a whole topic in and of itself. But yeah, that's just another area where personally, like, that was something I had to learn about a lot more than certain other areas where people are being discriminated against. Like, that was something that I had to really understand. And like, again, like, a lot of bravery to be able to live your truth, if that's your truth, especially when you're in such a public position. But also a lot of understanding, I think, that comes with it, of like the impact that you can make and the change that you can make. So shouts out to Elliot Page. And then in the U Free community, I shouted him out to start, but I'll just shout him out again. Shouts out to Austin Sin. Again, great conversation. He at one point said something along the lines of like, you ever just want to praise with the homies, just like praise God, praise the universe with the homies, you know what I'm saying?
Love it.
1000%, you know, so shouts out to Austin Sin, as you said, shouts out to Mo, shouts out to Glenn, shouts out to everybody in the audience today. Shouts out everyone in the U Free community, everyone been showing love, everyone who's new to the community and followed us recently. Yo, we got 54 sessions. If you haven't heard all 54,
go back and listen to that.
Go back, hit a random number. Wait till you hear the gems that have been dropped in the past. Wait till you hear some of these music transitions that we done. Like, catch up. Before catch up before 54 is 108 and you don't know where to start.
That's a fact too. Also too, speaking about that, shout out to Namdi as well. I think his book is coming out very, very soon.
Oh, facts, yeah, I think so.
Yes, there's a lot of shout outs to this, a lot of love going around.
Hey, shouts out Quizdell too. We had a great conversation. He hit us up with some thoughts and whatnot too. That's another thing. Like, this is a community. If anyone in the community has thoughts, has opinions, just wants to give us a boost of energy, like, hit us up. The line is always open, publicly and privately.
For sure. So peace and blessings to you all. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the kickoff. You know, a beautiful start to your week. Thank you again. Much love as always.
Much love.